Dirtle Magic. Thank you for tuning in to Dirtle Magic. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you like the content you see here today, and leave a like and share the video with someone you might think is interested. Leaving those likes really helps us out, but another way to help us out is by using our TCG Player affiliate link below. If you're looking for singles, sealed product, or gaming accessories, please consider using our link to support the channel. We also have some playmats at inkgaming.com. Go ahead and hit the link in the description to check those out. Alright, let's grab some spells and dirtle with some magic. Hello and welcome back to Dirtle Magic. Today we're playing Obeka Brute Chronologist. Looking at our opening hand, it's very red with red mana, but I don't think we can keep it, so we will have to mulligan. Our commander in the meantime is 1 blue, black, red for legendary 3/4 Ogre Wizard. Tap. The players whose turn it is may end the turn. As a may trigger, they don't have to do it. New hand. We have potentially blue, black, red. We do have a Scavenger Ground, so we do have 3 mana. We also have Victimize. Mages of the Wheel could be good. Follow up with Victimize. Do have Duskmail Guildmage for an early blocker. Puppeteer Click. 1 more land. We have our commander. I think we can keep this. Our first opponent is Risk the Redeemed. I should note, though, that Gemstone Caverns has come into play from our third opponent. We'll get to them in a minute. So Risk the Redeemed is Selesnya for a 1/1 Elf Warrior. Legendary, of course. 2 Selesnya, tap, create a 1/1 green and white Elf Warrior creature token. 4 and 2 Selesnya, tap, for each creature token you control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. You know, I just took out, in our last game, Sever the Bloodline. That kind of sucks. Although, on the bright side, we still have Echoing Truth, and Rakdos Charm. Savannah into play for the Risk player. Risk the Redeemed coming down for that player. 1-drop commanders can be good. Our next opponent with Evolving Wilds into play and cracked is Trostani Selesnya's Voice. Green, green, white, white for a legendary 2/5 Dryad. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. 1 green, white, tap, and populate. Create a token that's a copy of a creature token you already control. Plains into play for them. And our last opponent who played the Gemstone Caverns is Teysa Karlov. I'm really starting to regret taking out Sever the Bloodline. 2 white, black for a legendary 2/4 Human Advisor. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. They played a Caves of Koilos. To our turn, we get Kel's Fight Fixer, new addition to the deck I'm trying out. But man, so instead of the wheeling-mealing problem we had before, now we have token problems. I don't even know what this thing does to me anymore. Blood Crypt into play, and we'll pass it off. Over to Risk the Redeemed. There's gonna be so many tokens, lots of life gain, death triggers. I am concerned about Teysa though, because we do sacrifice our guys a bunch. Evolving Wilds into play for Risk, and it gets sacrificed. That's a Forest into play. Let's see if they're going to drop some more elves. Nope, just passing it off. Over to Trostani. So these decks tend to be very similar, but because they can be just about any creature you want, they can have some divergences. I'm interested in seeing what it will be. Risk likewise, and Teysa Karlov I actually haven't faced very much before, but I assume it's going to have a sub-theme of aristocrats and stuff like that. We'll see how it goes. Forest into play, followed by 3 visits out of Trostani. They'll go get a Forest card and put onto the battlefield. It's a Temple Garden. Will come into play tapped. It does. That's it for Trostani. Rolling on over to Teysa. Hey, Swamp into play for Teysa. I just want to read Gemstone Caverns. If it's in your opening hand and you're not playing first, you may begin with it on the battlefield with a luck counter on it. If you do exile a card from your hand, tap, add colorless. If it has a luck counter on it, instead add 1 mana of any color. That's it for Teysa. Going to roll over to us. I guess we'll play the Duskmantle Guildmage. We get Bojuka Bog on our turn, though. Could be good later against Teysa, maybe. Let's go ahead and play Command Tower and get down the Guildmage. Duskmantle Guildmage. So, I guess at this point, we'll pass off to our opponents, and I will say that I took almost all of the mill out of this deck. There's a little bit of self-mill, and there's still Altar of Dementia, Mindcrank, and Duskmantle. But because mill was becoming such a problem against our opponents, I ended up removing all of that and ended up putting in more steel type of effects. Land into play followed by Growing Rights of Itlimoc for Risk. Oh, that sucks. It enters the battlefield, they reveal the top 4 cards, look for a creature. So this is Arasta of the Endless Web. It creates tokens whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell. I tried that in Kolfiner for a while too. I didn't particularly like it. That's it for Riss, passing it off to Trostani. Arcane Signet coming down for Trostani. Followed by Speaker of the Heavens. Hey, that'll work really good in that deck. I don't look forward to a bunch of angels though. Trostani tapping down the rest of their mana and passing it off. Teysa with Bastion of Remembrance. Yep, there's an aristocratic effect. Dang it. They get a 1/1 human soldier into play. Comes our turn, we get a basic island. Alright, I can live with that. What do we want to do this turn? Probably do Scavenger Grounds and play Magus of the Wheel. And just kind of leave it up for blocks and not really use it. And see how things go. Pass it off to our opponents. Risk the Redeem activated. A 1/1 green and white elf warrior creature token into play for that player. Over to Trostani. Alhammarret's Archive coming down. If they gain life, they gain twice that much life, and if they draw a card except for the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, they draw 2 cards instead. Oh, don't like seeing that either. That's it for Trostani. Over to Teysa Karlov. Let's see, they did not drop a land in the last turn that they had, so maybe falling a little bit behind. We'll see what they have. Oh, Ancient Tomb. Yeah, that will catch them up nicely. We have Urgolem's Eye coming down. That's it for Teysa. Gonna roll over to us. I guess that works out. Although that Alhammarret's Archive is making me a little bit worried, and Riss is gonna be flipping that Growing Rights pretty quick. Let's go ahead. Do we want to play Bog yet? I kind of want to get it down and out of the way, but we do have 2 4-drops, so I guess we'll just hold on to it. Let's go ahead and play an island, and we'll get down our commander. Obeka, Brute Chronologist. On the bright side, no counter magic. Do we want to attack anywhere? Yeah, let's attack into Riss and Trostani, start getting those life totals down. I don't think they'll block, but if they do, we also get some creatures out of the way. Dimir into, or Duskmantle Guildmage rather, off into Riss, and Magus of the Wheel off into Trostani. And Trostani quits the game. Going to go check chat real quick. Okay, Trostani said that they got a call and they just got to go. That's too bad. Alright, well, I hope it's okay and not an emergency like always. 2 damage is good against Riss, however. We'll pass it off to our opponents. Over to Riss's turn, 8 cards in hand after the draw. Play something, probably land, activate Riss, do some other stuff, flip Growing Rights potentially. Prison Term on Obeka. It can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may attach it to that creature. I mean, that's not terrible. Obeka's not going to do too much for us at the moment. No attacks out of Riss. That's interesting. Alright, they're just going to pass it off over to Teysa Karlov. So I'm thinking for next turn, pending if we can get an untapped land, otherwise it might have to wait a turn. Bog or land. If we get the other land, we can play Victimize targeting Obeka, activate the Magus in response, and get a bunch of stuff back. Seems like a good idea. Smothering Tithe coming down for Teysa Karlov. Mox Opal, that's coming down for them too. So Smothering Tithe is kind of ruining the wheel plan, because Teysa Karlov will be able to really get into the game after that, so I don't know if we can do that now. Comes our turn, we do get a basic land. Smothering Tithe will trigger, we will not pay for it this time. Let's go ahead and play, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and play the island. And then we'll play Kel's Fight Fixer. Prison Term will trigger, let's see if they want to move it. They do not, that works for me. Let's go ahead and attack into Riss some more. Both attacking into Riss. Seems like a good idea. Damage is good, Riss down to 33. Alright, let's go ahead and pass off the turn. Now, I covered Kells on the channel earlier when Jumpstart came out, but for reference, it's a 4/3 with Menace. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may pay blue or black, so Dimir, if you do draw a card. And once sacrifice a creature, this gains indestructible until end of turn. So we do have mana up for that. We don't have the card draw necessarily, but then we also get creatures into the graveyard that we can use Victimize on later, as long as we can cast them first. So it's not a terrible synergy. Eternal Witness coming down. I was just thinking before the turn started, Bojuka Bog next turn definitely, no matter what, because of Second Harvest. That's going to be annoying. They also might be going after Evolving Wilds. They also haven't dropped a land in a turn or two. It is Evolving Wilds. Okay, so Bojuka Bog still has some use here. Evolving Wilds into play. It's going to get a crack, I imagine. There's the crack. They'll go get a basic. Basic Forest into play tapped for the Risk player. That's it for them. Rolling over to Teysa Karlov. Another reason I don't want to wheel Teysa Karlov is because now they only have 3 cards in hand after the draw. And whatever they draw, I don't want them to necessarily be able to cast along with the Smothering Tithe Treasure. So Magus of the Wheel is probably just a dead card to us right now until we can get maybe Feed the Swarm or Chaos Warp. It's the only thing we really have to deal with it besides Echoing Truth because it does target permanents, but Thalisi Reverent Medium. Alright, I did try to make a deck for that for the channel. I just didn't have the cards to support it the way I wanted to, so that didn't happen. Sorry to my viewers. It does look like an interesting commander, though, on the more casual side. So for reference, 3 white, black for legendary, 3/4 human cleric. So clerics also, if you care. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. And still it beats out Akeem the Soaring Wind. Anointed Procession coming down. Okay, so yeah, we gotta get rid of that Smothering Tithe pretty quick. Because then they'll be able to create an army of spirits and a bunch of treasure. That's not very good. To the end step, Thalisi will trigger. Alright, no new tokens for them. We get Order of Midnight. That's not the best at the moment. We will not pay for the Smothering Tithe trigger. Let's go ahead and play Bog. I guess we'll exile the only graveyard that has anything in it. That would be Riss's. Alright, let's go ahead and play Terror of the Peaks. And try to burn out Thalisi sooner rather than later, although they're still going to have an army of spirits, which I'm not looking forward to. Prison Term will trigger. They do not move it. Alright, let's go to attacks. Probably still attack into the Risk player. And we could also attack into the Teysa player with Kells, but we don't have any mana for Indestructible. And it does have Menace, they'd have to block with both. I don't think they actually would, though. Let's go ahead and test those waters. Kells off into Teysa, and then the other 2 off into Risk. Damage is good all around. Risk down to 28. Teysa down to 32. Let's pass it off. People really underestimate Menace, I feel, a lot of the time. I don't know, that's just my feeling on it. I've had Menace on commanders before, and it was fantastic. Over to Riss's turn. Arasta of the Endless Web coming down for the Risk player. So that'll be good for him, more or less. Give him some reach tokens that can block the flyers. Although I think the flyers will soon outnumber us pretty readily. Hoping to make it to the next turn where we can start burning out Thalisi. Probably sacrifice one of our guys, maybe a second one, get it back with Victimize, and do some damage. End of the turn, Thalisi will trigger. They'll get 4 more spirits. Growing Rites will flip over. And 2, Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun. Itlimoc flips. So now they can tap to add green, 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 green to their map pool, or 4 green if you prefer. And that'll just keep going up as they make more creatures. They'll get at least 1 off of us because of Victimize. Over to Teysa Karlov's turn. 2 cards in hand after the draw. Probably the only thing that's keeping them down this game is that we didn't wheel. Hopefully they don't get any card draw by sacrifice outlets, but that's going to... And there it is. Grim Haruspex to the battlefield. A very good card in my opinion. Human Wizard if you need a black wizard. We might have a response out of Risk. They tap Itlimoc. And they're tapping a creature. And, okay, so they're just making another token. Now, specifically with the Grim Haruspex, it triggers when a non-token creature dies. So only if Thalisi dies will they draw a card, and we're going to need to kill her, no problem. Reliquary Monk coming down. When it dies, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Teysa Karlov coming down for that player. Their tokens now have lifelink and vigilance. That's unfortunate. Teysa to the attacks. Let's see where they're all going. They could swarm us, although we have a flyer and Risk has a reach, and they don't have any card draw currently. I think what I'm going to do next turn is kill Thalisi and the Grim Haruspex so I can steal the Grim Haruspex later. So that way we can continue to draw cards. Alright, we have spirits all off into us. Yeah, alright, that makes a bit of sense. I don't think it's the right choice, though. Let's go ahead and block with our Terror of the Peaks. We are down to 33. They gain 8 life, up to 37, and we only kill 1 spirit. Bastion of Remembrance will also trigger twice, so we're down to 31. My mistake. We get Sir Conrad the Grim. Okay. I don't think we can wait to play him first, but that is interesting. So I'm sorry, we also have Sir Conrad as a mill effect, if you will. Alright, let's get started. Sacrifice Obeka. We will not put her back into the command zone. We want to recur her with Victimize. Kells will trigger. We can pay Dimir mana to draw a card, and we will do so. Jace's Archivist. Unfortunately, not something we need right now. Smothering Tithe will trigger again. Kells will gain Indestructible till end of turn, but we're going to sacrifice her. And we will not draw a card this time. And then let's go ahead and play Victimize. Barasta of the Endless Web will trigger. We will sacrifice our Mages of the Wheel. Terror of the Peaks will trigger. Let's see, 4 damage will go off into the Thalizi, and then 3 damage will go off to the Grim Haruspex. Grim Haruspex is down. Bastion of Remembrance will trigger. We are down to 29. Thalizi down. Bastion of Remembrance will trigger twice more. Alright, that's it for our turn. We are down to 27. Let's pass it off to Riss. Riss is at 22, 8 cards in hand after the draw. Teysa Karlov, 43, 0 cards in hand so far. We are at 27, 4 cards in hand. Jace's Archivist still not very good for us. Order of Midnight will be good for getting back the Mages if we want. I think Puppeteer Click next turn with the Grim Haruspex and Kells down, so we can draw some more cards. As long as the Teysa player doesn't draw too much else, we can slowly stem the tide, but we're probably still going to need some kind of mass removal. Oh, Sandworm Convergence out of the Riss player. We're going to die to a bunch of spirits. Riss taps down the rest of their mana. I doubt they're going to combat, but they might. Riss does not go to combat. End of turn, Sandworm Convergence will trigger, giving them a 5/5 worm. Over to Teysa Karlov, 1 card in hand after the draw. They are up to 43. So we're probably taking a bunch of spirits. As long as Teysa doesn't draw enchantment removal, Riss is very safe from them. Falkenrath Noble, another Aristocrats effect coming down to the battlefield. Alright, so the spirits all coming at us. That makes sense. And we have, this is the one, Reliquary Monk, when it dies, they get to destroy enchantments and artifacts. I don't see why Riss would block this. I would have gladly have killed this had it been coming at us. But, oh well. We'll block. Well, actually, we probably take less damage and life loss if we don't block because of the effects. Okay, well, I tried to pull back the Terror of the Peaks from the block. It won't let me, so I guess we're taking an extra 3. That's unfortunate. Well, crud. Sometimes I just don't know what's happening. Sorry, we're taking an extra 4. Forgot it doubles. Comes our turn, we get Body Double. Oh, again, that's not terribly helpful. Okay, so we pretty desperately need some kind of removal. We're not getting Echoing Truth. We're not getting Mizizium Mortars. At this point, killing them with Mizizium Mortars would not be the best idea. So Echoing Truth is something we really need. How do we draw some more cards? Well, let's go ahead and try to get rid of Teysa Karlov and at least make them recast it. That'll keep things a little bit interesting. Or we can get rid of the Falkenrath Noble. That could also be good. Puppeteer Click into play. We have some triggers. 3 damage to what, though? I think we're actually going to take our chance and risk the Reliquary Monk right here. And then Puppeteer Click for the Grim Haruspex. We get another trigger. Let's take out the Falkenrath Noble. Yep, there's a number of triggers, but at least we got rid of one of them. Let's respond by activating Kells. We'll sacrifice the Puppeteer Click. We get some more triggers. Terror of the Peaks will only do 2 damage this time. I guess we'll kill Riss. And then we'll get back Thalizi. Sorry, no, we'll get back the Falkenrath Noble. Hopefully get rid of some of the effects where we're going to gain life, draw life, all that stuff. Terror of the Peaks back into play. Let's kill the Reach Spider, sure. We have a trigger. Let's go ahead and hit the Teysa player with it. Another trigger. Hopefully this will pad our life total enough where we can survive. Smoothing Tithe with trigger. We will not pay for it. We cannot. We go down to 14. Sad face. Our last trigger goes off and kills the Reliquary Monk. It'll get to destroy stuff. Hopefully putting Riss back in contention so we're not entirely attacked the whole time. We're going to get bled for some more, and we have a trigger. Alright, let's see. Reliquary Monk going after the Sandoran Convergence and Arasta. Okay, that works for me. We have a trigger. Let's go ahead and use it. After all the triggers, we are back up to 14 from losing down to 13 after going to 16. All the places. And I don't think I want to attack right now. Let's just hold off on it. If we can get back their Reliquary Monk, that could be pretty good. Puppeteer click will trigger. Unfortunately, those creatures we got back are exiled. On Riss's turn, they get Entreat the Angels. That'll be pretty good for him. Riss is in fact going to pay for some miracles. X equals 6. They will get 6 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying. That is pretty good. That's it for Riss. Over to Teysa's turn. We could possibly die here. Yeah, it wouldn't be too good. Lots of mana being tapped down over there. We have Black Market. Okay, I'm not too worried about that right now. I mean, yeah, if they draw like Sanguinate or a Debt to the Deathless, sure. But we're already in territory for being killed like by that anyway, so that's not too much on my threat radar. Alright, Spirit Soul into us. That's fine. Let's just take it. Not blocking this time, and not making a mistake of not being able to pull back my Terror of the Peaks for whatever reason. We take 6. We are down to 8. Teysa up to 63. Riss is at 14 with 7 cards in hand, by the way. Comes our turn, we get Obsessive Stitcher. New addition to the deck, draw a card, discard a card. Way to get creatures into the graveyard. Smoothing Tithe, we will not pay. Alright, so what I'm thinking here is body double for the Reliquary Monk and then sack it to Kells. That way we can get rid of their enchantments. Because at this point we're dead to either person. But I do want to, if we can win, Teysa is going to be the problem at the moment, I think. So let's go ahead and do all this stuff. Body double to the stack. We'll get a copy of Reliquary Monk. We get to deal 2 damage to something. Woo. I guess we'll just hit Teysa in the face. That way we don't take any damage from the Bastion. And then let's go ahead and sacrifice the Reliquary Monk. And a bunch of triggers will happen. We'll get rid of the Bastion of Remembrance. Black Market, we'll get 2 counters on it. I think Teysa has enough mana though. Bastion down. And we cannot pay to draw, but Kells is indestructible. Yay. And I think we just sit on it and see what Riss does. There's not much we can do at this point. Over to Riss's turn. 14 life, 8 cards in hand though. They've had almost a full hand almost the whole game, and it is worrisome. But we've opened them up to attacking the Teysa player without them losing any life. And we've also opened up the Teysa player to attacking Riss, although that clearly didn't work out the way I had hoped. They're tapping some big mana over on Riss's side. Let's see what happens. Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite. Oh yeah, that'll work real good. Alright, we're going to lose 2 creatures, and their angels are going to be absolutely huge. There everything goes. All the Black Market triggers. I'll see you on the other side of this. We have Mana Reflection coming on for Riss. No, man. It seems like they have enough mana to me, but what do I know? Alright, Riss to the attacks. We have a block of angels coming our way. Yeah, we're just going to die to him. That's unfortunate. I hope they'd at least take some out to Teysa, but I guess not. Alright, Terror of the Peaks gets to live. There's no reason for it to die. And that's the game for us. That's unfortunate. I was hoping they'd at least send some Teysa's way. With our Terror of the Peaks, we could have tried to burn them out, so I can see where they get the threat assessment there. So, Teysa Karlov, on their first main phase, has 20 free black mana. That's a lot of free mana. If they drew Exsanguinate, this game is over. Or even Torment of Hailfire or Debt to the Deathless. Alright, and they give it up. Riss is the winner. Who do I want to give it to? I think I'm going to give it to the Trostani player. Because they were going to be in the game and they got called away. That's my reasoning. Okay, that's the game. We get 1 point. Okay, well, I guess there's no transition for this one. Anyway, we got 1 point. Another player got 3. Another player got 1, which I believe was the player who left. I don't know because it like immediately turned off. But anyway, here's the deck. I made some major changes to it, and we saw some of those changes in action in this game. I don't know that we could have necessarily won that game because Grixis just does not have the enchantment removal. As I was saying, we did have 3 we could have gotten. Echoing Truth does non-land permanents and returns each other permanent type that shares a name with it, which is really, really good against tokens. Really hoping we could have drawn that, but we couldn't get rid of the Bastion of Remembrance or the Smothering Tithe or any of that stuff with that. Otherwise, we also have Chaos Warp, and that's basically Red's enchantment removal, such as it is. Yeah, and we didn't get it, and then we had Feed the Swarm. So we did have ways to get rid of stuff, we just couldn't get Draw Engine going, and before the game started, I checked our draw. We have between 10 and 11, depending on how you count draw, if it has to be activated or it's free or whatever. So the only one we got was Kells, and we had to sacrifice our creatures to do that, which pays us dividends, but only getting the 1 kind of hurt a lot. Anyway, let's go over changes to the deck. I kind of went away from the mill because it kept helping a lot of people all of the time. So now we're kind of like self-milling ourselves, discarding our own cards. We still have the wheel effects because that helps us, you know, get stuff into our graveyard. And then I added some more stealing effects. So as I said in the beginning, we still have Altar of Dementia, we still have the Mind Crank, and then to combo with that, we still have the Duskmetal Guildmage. So if we can get there, we can have a backup infinite combo. I mean, everybody's going to see it coming. It's pretty classic at this point. But I do like to have at least one backup infinite combo in a deck I make. So that's there for that. It also does the milling. Plus, we also still have Sir Conrad the Grim. Totally forgot about that guy, but he works with just everything when it dies or gets milled or it gets wheeled. He's just a good card. Some other new things to the deck besides wheels. Obsessive Stitcher, it helps us discard stuff to our graveyard. Kells, the Fight Fixer, we saw it in this game. She helps us sacrifice our creatures so we can recur them and get more ETB effects, or maybe even just a newer creature out if our graveyard gets full enough, if we can self-mill, maybe through Altar of Dementia, Combustible Gearhulk, one of the wheels, something like that. And then I add Goblin Bombardment. I'm not sure about this card. It's a good sack outlet, but I'm thinking something closer to maybe Yahenni. I should put maybe Viserys here. Something that's a creature so we can recur the creature in a sack outlet. Plus that leads us into some other combos and things, so probably going to take this out if I ever play this deck again and not necessarily do Goblin Bombardment. We can't go infinite with it in this deck yet if we wanted to, so there's no real reason to have it in here over, say, something like Viserys here. Another sacrifice outlet we have, kind of because it's a one-time thing, is Kazul's Fury. I was looking to increase the land count in the deck without having to sacrifice space, and when I mentioned the the Yagadiem's Awakening last time, I was thinking to myself, well, there's a whole cycle of these things, let's go take a look. So I added Kazul's Fury. Additional cost to sacrifice, or to play this spell, you sacrifice a creature, and if we can steal one of our opponent's creatures, all the better. But then this is also an extra red source in the deck. Malakir Rebirth. So when something might die, we can lose 2 life, and then it just returns to the battlefield. I thought that was good, especially because it's instant, and again, it gives us another black source. And then, of course, we still have the Glasspool Mimic. That's still in the deck. It's a clone of ours. ETB copies something, especially if it's something like Flare of the Hatebond, and we get back something Combustible Gearhulk. The new Molten Primordial we have in the deck, stuff like that. So speaking of Molten Primordial, we do have a few other steal effects in the deck for alive creatures, because killing other people's creatures in this deck apparently isn't the best thing. Molten Primordial, they'll steal 1 creature from every opponent, and then if we have a sack outlet, we just get rid of them. But again, that takes a lot of mana, and I don't know this deck is fast enough to do that, but just stealing them and punching somebody in the face also works out a lot of the time. I also add Coercive Recruiter. It's basically a Zealous Conscripts, except it turns it into a pirate. So in case that ever has a use, there it is. Coercive Recruiter itself does not have haste though, so you are just stealing somebody else's thing for a turn and gains haste. But again, we can sacrifice it to something. Although we did add Zealous Conscripts, who does have haste, 1 less power, but it also steals a permanent. So that can also be useful if we want to, like, I don't know, ultimate a Planeswalker that somebody has. That's always an option we have with the Zealous Conscripts. And then I added Hostage Taker. This one we can basically steal something and then cast it ourselves, or just leave it in exile too. So another stealing effect. Also add some more card draw. Also add Necromancy. I just want to mention that it has come down a little bit in price, but Dance of the Dead and Animate Dead are still cheaper. But best for the Grim Haruspex, just like we saw in the other deck, and then we stole it for a little bit. If our creatures die and they're non-token, we get to draw a card. Okay, well that's the basics of it. We just didn't draw any, like, removal almost at all. We got Terror of the Peaks and we're doing some work there, but between Riss having a full hand the whole time and not really committing to the board, and the Teysa player, especially getting Khaleesi down, that card can be really good if you got support. And like I said, I wanted to build that for the channel. I just didn't have those cards to support it, so when testing the deck, I just didn't think it'd be very entertaining. Anyway, if you liked any of the cards you saw in this video and want to purchase them for yourself, Sealed Proc coming up, Kildheim coming out, almost there, play some of those commanders. Sleeves, too, if you want some of those to protect your stuff. Please consider using the TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. It helps out the channel, doesn't cost you anything extra, and of course, there'll be a deck tech for this particular deck coming up after the video, and there will be a link to the deck list in the description below for this video and in the deck tech, so if you want to take a look at the deck list, maybe use it as a basis for your own deck, and of course make it your own, go ahead and check that out. Alright, one more Commander Legends Commander. Long lull in between sets this time, although I'm glad for a little bit of a slowdown. So anyway, until the next series and after the deck tech, I'll see you for that one.